though. I feel like my channel sometimes can end up being too negative when I only speak about the things that bother me instead of the things that make me happy. A while ago now, literally a while ago, like this news was released on March 12th, and even when I'm recording, it's nowhere near March 12th now. It's now like March 23rd, so it's been quite a while. A while ago, Crusader Kings 3 have announced what they're releasing for DLCs this year, and whenever they announce like a amount of DLCs, they call it a chapter. And this is chapter 4. This also allows you to just like pre-purchase all the DLCs in that chapter inside one nice bundle, so you don't need to buy DLCs separately. So if you're keeping up with Crusader Kings 3, even if it went on for as long as The Sims 4 did, it would still be cheaper to own all the DLCs for Crusader Kings 3 than it would be for The Sims 4. Anyway, I sometimes do actually like play Crusader Kings 3. Currently, if I'm gonna look on my Steam library, I have 290 hours into the game. So I do have DLC for it, like downloadable content. I do actually purchase it. And what's upcoming for Chapter 4 is kind of exciting for me, so I just wanna talk about it, but I also just want to watch the announcement video with you guys because I watched this on my own and that's nowhere near as fun. So by the time that this is gonna release, it's gonna be super old, but like, let's just watch something for once. I think that might be very engaging.
I'm Jacob, Community Manager with Paradox Studio Black.
Hi.
Whether you're a veteran player or just discovering us for the first time, we are thrilled to have you here for a first look at what the future holds for our game.
Oh, he's happy!
Chapter 4. In today's video, you'll see the story trailer for the first piece of content coming in Chapter 4. Then we'll talk with one of the developers who are helping to bring that vision to life. After that, we'll explore more of what Chapter 4 has to offer with our major expansion, as well as some of the other large updates that players can expect to come this year.
They don't really give you pauses to talk because the video was probably not intended for somebody else to talk over it. But what I'm most excited about Chapter 4 comes like right at the end of Chapter 4, because that bit of news is a bit insane and I kind of spoiled it directly in like the title of the video. But let's watch just like the whole thing because we're already here, we may as well. And like, that's a nice dude, why not stare at him for a while?
Be sure to stay until the end for a note on how you can get your questions answered in an upcoming Q&A session. This chapter is our most ambitious yet.
I'm probably already late for the Q&A.
Era with deeper systems, brand new mechanics, and fresh content that capture the excitement and intrigue of medieval life. Now, without further ado, here's the story trailer for our upcoming core expansion, Khans of the Steppe.
The grass beneath our feet has turned brown and withered. The rivers, parched and lifeless, faded to dust. And so, we ride westward to lands green with promise. No ink upon parchment can tame the storm that rides with us. No wall of stone nor iron gate can withstand the might of my horde. Under my banner, the whole world will crumble, and from its ashes, a new one will rise.
Khans of the Steppe releases on April 28th, so be sure to mark your calendars for it. Now, I'd like to introduce Veronica, one of the talented game designers working at the studio, to tell us more about some of the features being crafted for this core expansion.
I bet that by the time I release this video, Khans of the Steppe will probably already be here or be soon, or be coming very, very soon. I'm gonna let her talk for a while, but I do have some worries about it. I do really like Mongolian throat singing though, so that's gonna be the vibe, but still.
Hello, my name is Veronica Pathos. I'm a game designer on the upcoming DLC Khans of the Steppe, and today we're gonna be talking about the main features coming with this update. At the core of Khans of the Steppe lies the Nomadic Government type. This new government type is heavily inspired by the nomadic rulers of the Great Steppe and places a heavy emphasis on might, herd, and land. Nomads don't stay in one place as sedentary rulers do, but they travel across the map together with their herd. They extract fertility of the land within the greater steppe and grow their forces. However, fertility is finite, and if they want to continue growing, they will have to migrate. Migration can be done via peaceful means by convincing an amenable shepherd to lend their lands to you, or via warfare, by taking the lands forcefully for another nomadic ruler. Your horse and cattle are represented by a new currency called herd, only available to nomads. This currency plays a very important role to their lives, as they represent how they're viewed by other rulers and can be used in multiple ways like bribing, scheming, and even used as dowry. With the intention of growing their herd, nomadic rulers will constantly migrate if they're small. However, there are other options for bigger rulers like kings and emperors. This will obtain most of their herd through tributaries, establishing their rule all over the realm. One of the bigger changes to nomadic rulers is that they do not use levies, but instead use herd that can be transformed into horde riders, a new type of very basic manga terms. In the steppe, might makes right. Nomadic rulers have access to dominance, a fixed scale that increases with their power. Low dominance represents smaller chieftains, whereas those that reach the highest dominance will be able to become Genghis Khan. Life in the steppe is not easy, and pasturing is at the mercy of the elements. Seasons change in each region, affecting the fertility and other parameters of each. For example, a white suit will cover the land with a layer of snow, making it almost impossible to graze. However, a more moderate and warm weather offers the perfect climate for pasturing, making nomads able to grow their herd even more. Thanks for being with us, and we really hope that you enjoy the next DLC.
Our team has been working incredibly hard to ensure that this DLC captures the experience of the lifestyle of the nomadic peoples in the Great Steppe, and your feedback has been a big part of that. You might remember our preview dev diary from a few weeks ago. We asked for your thoughts, and we've already made changes to the content based on your feedback, particularly by making tributaries available to more governments than just the nomadic one, as well as making changes to the nomadic economy itself. There are even more refinements we haven't shown yet, and we'll be going over them in developer diaries releasing every Tuesday from now until the release of Khans of the Steppe on April 28th. Now, we've still got plenty left to cover coming up in Chapter 4, so let's move on to the next piece of content, an event pack we're calling Coronations.
I don't know if it's later down in the video or if it's just something that I imagined. I think it's gonna be in the later down in the video. They tend to base the new content on what they previously have already made. And the Khans of the Steppe is based upon wandering nobles. And I didn't quite enjoy the gameplay of wandering nobles. So for me, this piece of DLC is a bit like, I kind of want to have it in order to like complete Mongolia, and I might play through it like once for the interest of it. Plus, I do like Mongolian throat singing, but managing an estate instead of like managing your royal court doesn't quite appeal to me. So I know that it's a weird issue because for a lot of people this will be a non-issue. And I wonder whether or not the fact that they're basing a lot of content in one DLC on something that they made in another DLC kind of cheapens the content a little bit, because you get less new mechanics. You just get the same new mechanic utilized through different means. And I suppose this is part of building systems that last. But at the same time, if you end up not liking core mechanic, you're not gonna like a lot of the things that are based on said core mechanic. Anyway, proceeding with the video.
In the medieval world, a coronation was more than just a ceremony. It was a turning point for any aspiring ruler. Being crowned isn't simply about wearing a fancy hat. It represents the moment when earthly authority and divine authority converge, granting legitimacy and a true right to rule to any monarch. With this event pack, we've introduced a new activity type to let you experience this event firsthand. While the content of the Coronations event pack is still under early development, our intent is for these events to test your diplomatic skill, your relationship with the church, and maybe even your coffers. The goal with the Coronations event pack is simple: to make it feel like you've truly earned your crown. Every decision in your coronation influences how your vassals, allies, and everyone else will perceive your rule going forward. Plan it wisely because the outcome of this ceremony can echo throughout the entirety of your reign and beyond. So far, we've covered the new nomadic government and cons of the steppe and explored the ceremony of coronations.
That was a very small explanation of the ceremony and coronations. I'm wondering, one, are event packs just too small to be sold as DLC? I mean, I know that it's gonna be like a super cheap DLC and that if you're buying the Seasons Pass, you shouldn't like even count it as part of the price. You should just see like as something extra. Two, will having this event pack make it easier to manage your legitimacy? Legitimacy was something that was introduced in like previous DLCs before. I think it came with like the plagues. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it was introduced at the same time as the plagues. One way to manage it is to throw really extravagant funerals. You will have the legitimacy mechanic no matter on you bought the plagues DLC or not. But you're not gonna have the access to the funerals if you haven't bought the Plagues DLC. You can sort of get around this by throwing many feasts or grand tournaments or any other sort of event that's already in the game, but it always ends up being quite costly. So whenever your ruler changes hands, it tends to be quite the affair anyway, unless, of course, your children are high legitimacy. In general, the longer the game goes on for, the easiest it is to get legitimacy. But at the start of the game, just like marry a commoner, which you would be doing for stats, and your legitimacy is like tanked all the way down. Or if you're in a very turmoil-prone region, where there's a lot of wars, it's very easy to once again tank your legitimacy. So it's more like an early game problem than it is an end game problem. I wonder if this event pack, if one positive could be that this would increase your legitimacy upon getting crowned, which would make it the preferred event over all other events that are in the game. So maybe gold to legitimacy ratio would become better, but that's my wishful thinking for what is like a small little event pack DLC. For all I know, this is just gonna make playing Crusader Kings 3 more annoying. Like, this will be something that you absolutely have to do every single time when your rulers change. Meanwhile, you don't need to throw a funeral. You can if you have something to gain from a funeral. Therefore, we're gonna see how it goes. I have some DLC that make the game harder, apparently. Some DLC is just fun to have, some spam you with events. It's a very mixed bag.
But our journey through Chapter 4 isn't over yet. Let's hand things over to our game director, Alexander Oltner, as well as one of our programmers, Don, to talk about what's coming up in the major expansion for Chapter 4.
Now, for the major expansion of the chapter, as you might have figured out, we will be going east.
This is the part that I'm very excited about. Some people are worried because if your PC is already chugging when playing this game, increasing the map size is gonna make it chug so much more.
And complete the map of Crusader Kings 3 by adding Asia. All of it.
Why am I gonna cry at a stupid trailer for a video game?
All Under Heaven, as the expansion is named, adds all of East Asia. From the celestial government of the Chinese Empire to the wildly different governing forms in Japan and Korea, and the god kings of the archipelago in Indonesia. Of course, Asia will be full of unique faiths and cultures and buildings and everything else, making playing there a vastly different experience from playing in Europe or anywhere else on the map.
I'm sorry, but this is so hype because this is a very large part of the game being added to the game that was never there before. Like, this is what you could be calling a legitimate expansion pack. If I remember correctly, China wasn't really fully in Crusader Kings 2. You could trade with China and you could get somewhat into China, but not fully. Like, majority of the China was still like walled off, and if you lived close enough to that edge, you had like a button to keep relations with China, so you could like call China and send them your own stuff and you could get like help back. But China wasn't there. Can you imagine like the kind of epic shit that you can get into with something like this? Like, people already love getting Vikings all the way to India in order to pick up the elephants. Now imagine if you take your Viking to India in order to pick up the cultural elephants and then conquer all of Asia and decide that your primary place of occupation is gonna be Japan. This is huge. And when you make such a huge announcement, apparently, despite the fact that this is not the first time that I'm watching it and that it's been a while since I watched it, I get teary-eyed.
Our philosophy when making expansions like these is that they should follow a logical pattern, and Roads to Power led up to this moment, with the Celestial Government being inspired by the administration that we introduced previously. Tours and tournaments introduced travel, which enabled us to have landless rulers in administration.
He's now explaining what I was talking about previous, but Roads to Power wasn't my favorite just because I don't really enjoy playing inside Byzantine Empire, which kind of means that I'm gonna be experiencing effectively what Roads of Power put in while playing China for the first time. So we're gonna see how it goes. I get worried when like your inheritance gets on the line, but it might not be too bad.
Administrative realms, which allows us in turn to have the Chinese Empire represented in a truly unique way. I will now briefly hand over the word to Dan Brockhoff, a developer on the team responsible for a large area of All Under Heaven.
Hello, my name is Dan. I'm a developer on Crusader Kings. So, China is special in our era. It is prominent, it is large, it is powerful. So we decided that we should introduce a new tier of title, the hegemony.
Now, to be fair, China pretty big right now too. Like, it is a large mass. It's not a tiny country.
This represents the way that China influences everyone around them and is a leading point in this part of the world. Another cool feature that we have in China is what we call the dynastic cycle. This represents how the mandate of heaven is lost and gained.
That worries me.
This cycle represents chaotic eras, stable eras. This process, you will at one point have enough around you and you will claim the mandate of heaven, and the people will know that you are the right dynasty to continue the glory of the Chinese Empire. We call the type of government for China the Celestial Government, which is like an administrative government but has some additional features, one of which is the treasury. The imperial treasury is money that flows upwards towards the emperor and that he can spend wisely or unwisely. The Empire of China, of course, will face some challenges, and you will make sure that China survives in an intact and prosperous state, behind your great walls and with great armies and great generals. All Under Heaven is our biggest expansion yet, and I hope you'll like what we're doing with it.
You see, now that I think about it, like, having the whole of Asia feels like a completely different game as well, because they will have their own scuffles and their own ways of rulership and so on and so forth. Normally in Crusader Kings, Europe and Middle East are the semi-well fleshed out places, because there tends to be a lot of Christian versus Muslim crusades happening, hence the name Crusader Kings. To be fair, India and Africa exists. I wonder if at any point we could have like expansion to super flesh out those places. I know that they already have like unique cultures and like unique beliefs, but it never quite feels as important or that as much resources was invested into it as it does if you're thinking about like Europe or Middle East, which tends to be like the main focus of Crusader Kings. The fact that China gets its own like whole DLC, the whole of Asia gets like a DLC, it's very cool. I feel like I'm gonna play there a lot, but I also feel like that will make me want for them to flesh out some other places that will then kind of feel like they're not really fleshed out enough in comparison.
We hope you enjoyed this glimpse into the scope and depth of All Under Heaven.
I enjoyed it twice.
Is incredibly important to us at Studio Black. We don't want to present a strictly Eurocentric or outsider's perspective on the history of the cultures we're depicting in All Under Heaven, which is why we've been collaborating with historians as well as prominent members of our existing Chinese community from the very earliest stages of All Under Heaven's development. This approach helps us ensure that the content is not only fun to play, but historically accurate and respectful to the cultures and societies that are covered in the new areas of the game. While we don't have a specific release date for All Under Heaven yet, developer diaries are expected to begin shortly after the release of Cons of the Steppe, with the first dev diary tentatively scheduled for early in May.
Unfortunately, it's gonna be like probably super late. I'm gonna guess like between November and December. So there's quite a bit of time between now and when the major expansion for Crusader Kings 3 lands. It's fine, I have other games to invest into, but not gonna lie, super hyped for the thing that's the furthest away right now.
While Chapter 4 brings a lot of new exciting content to the game, we also believe it's important to refine and reiterate upon the mechanics that already exist in the game. That's why we're rolling out a substantial update to Crusader Kings 3, the 1.15 Crown update. The Crown update revamps the court position system, making the interface sleeker and more intuitive.
As much as it is interesting, we can probably skip conversations about an update. That's probably not why we're here. Well, that's not why I'm here.
Finally, we have a little extra for those of you eager to dive into what Chapter 4 has to offer right now. Our instant unlock, Crowns of the World. You buy the Chapter 4 bundle, you will immediately gain access to a wide variety of crowns and turbans inspired by cultures across the map. Whether your domain stretches across mainland Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa, you are sure to find a piece of headwear that fits your style, and you will gain access to it as soon as you buy the Chapter 4 bundle.
Now, I never purchased chapter bundles before like the first part of major content drops. The good thing about chapter bundles is that if you're only interested in content that's in the middle of the bundle or at the end, you will still be able to pick up the whole bundle for the discounted price instead of like separate DLC until like close to the next release of the chapter. So I think they have already retired Chapter 3, but that has happened after they released the last part of Chapter 3, so all the way up until that point, you could have claimed the discount for buying like the whole chapter rather than separate DLCs, and you can always just buy the chapter at the end and just get all the DLCs, including like the instant crown unlocks, all at once. It entirely depends what you're interested in.
We've given you just a brief glimpse at Con of the Steppes, All Under Heaven, as well as Coronations.
Like, chances are I will return to play some Crusader Kings around May when Cons of the Steppe releases. And that's probably when I'm gonna get the bundle, because I might as well. But the expansion that I'm super hype is the one that's almost gonna be like a Christmas gift to myself, by which point I will already own this, so as long as I still have a computer in a house, I could engage in it. Anyway, are you excited for like Crusader Kings 3 at all? I don't actually know how many people that tend to watch my videos are engaged in like Crusader Kings outside of like that one piece of like Crusader Kings slash I should stop messing with my hair. It's just that if I'm looking directly at the screen where I'm recording, I can't really stop myself because I'm like, no, it doesn't quite lie properly. But outside of that one crossover where there's a Vampire the Masquerade mod inside Crusader Kings 3, I am not entirely sure how many people that watch me are also excited for Crusader Kings 3. I would love to know that, so if it is something that's your thing, raise your hand. How do you feel about the whole of Asia releasing? I know that the reception is split between hype and my computer will explode, which normally is kind of a positive thing outside of the my computer will explode people because they can't afford a new computer, which is sad. Very, very sad. Anyway, that was the things that I'm looking forward to right now quite heavily. Do you like it? That is a really dumb question. That is a better question actually. What are you excited? What are you looking forward to? Let's have a happy discussion for once. Let's keep up the positive vibes and enjoy each other's company because that sounds like it would be a good thing to do. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my content, please check out the rest of this channel. It's kind of weird. I do gaming videos, I do spirituality videos, and I also do tabletop videos. If you like all of that, please subscribe. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much. And thank you for my Patreon supporters that allow me to engage in the hobby of gaming. Without you, I wouldn't really have a gaming budget that's allowing me to do games, which would be very sad. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope I'm gonna see you in my other videos. Toodaloo.